As foretold, Great-Grandpa Dimmitt is back, again, making a second video in 2 days. I'm trying to stay calm, but there's been an awful lot of stuff thrown around in Facebook that it just teed me off. And when I try to reply, between you and I, my spell checker is possessed. Oh, really? I mean, I was commenting to somebody who had made a very complimentary remark to me, and I said to him that your comments, your videos that you do, they are such, and my spell checker changed such to suck. Blah! What chance do I have of maintaining friendships when this possessed spell checker mocks me as this one does? We're not going to go there, brothers and sisters. No! I'm just going to comment on some of the things that are smeared across Facebook. Which, another thing I have foretold, my God, I'm psycho. I mean psychic. Those words confuse me. Anyway, first of all, I want to... I'm not teaching you here, but believe me, I don't have any authority of the Catholic Church to teach at this point in my life. I'm retired. I just want to explain to you why the Catholics believe that the Pope is special. It goes right back to the Bible, of all places. Now, there was an apostle. His name was Simon. And Christ was speaking to Simon. And he said, Simon, he calls him Peter. He didn't say Simon. Thou art Peter, and upon this rock I shall build my church. Now my evangelical former ward, who I love very much, is confused by this, and I have argued it with him many times. So I may be just blowing smoke to try to explain it to you, but it's why Catholics believe that the Pope is the vicar of Christ. Now, the young ward of mine, who is evangelical because of my lack in teaching him religion when he was a child, of all the mistakes I've made in my life, this was the greatest. But he believes that Christ was talking about the physical rock. And Christ had said, the netherworld shall never prevail against it. Now, I guess one could believe that Christ expected them to build a small church there on the rock, and evil, the netherworld, would never, ever, never prevail against that rock. No, the apostles believed that he was talking about a church. So, let's move to the next chapter. There was an apostle named Judas. Now, theologians today are a little confused as to Judas's place in the church. We certainly didn't canonize him. We don't say Saint Judas. But there are some theologians that think that might not be a bad idea in the spirit of forgiveness. I don't even want to get into that. I don't know. But I do know that the apostles got together and nominated another man to replace the apostle Judas. So they must have intended to start a church, and that man touched hands with another man. It reminds me of a comment made by a priest on a program that was on television a while back called Nothing Sacred. It's one of my favorite shows because it kind of showed where the church is at today before we got here. But he made a very profound statement. Things were going bad in his parish. And he looks down with great acting ability at the table, and he says, "What is this? That this man touched this man, who touched this man, who touched this man, who touched me." Well, that's what Catholics call, and many of the Greek Orthodox, which is a part of this thing of apostolic succession, a power that was passed, and a power that leads itself right back to Jesus Christ, our beloved Lord. That's what Catholics believe. So that explains why we have great respect for the Pope. It's this hand touched this hand, that touched this hand, that touched his hand. And the Pope, his hands lead back to the first Pope, Peter. So, now that we've solved that, I'm sure we haven't, because truth just upsets these kind of people. We have today, and this was foretold, a great hate for the Pope. If anybody out there can show me one statement that the Pope has made that is not biblical, coming from the words of Jesus Christ, I will eat the microphone. Though I do have some salad I bought at Winco the other day that's going to go bad if I don't eat it. I'd rather eat that. Anyway, maybe we've solved that. Perhaps not. The thing also that bothers me is how can they take his words and turn them around to words of hate? Because Jesus Christ himself would say what Pope Francis is saying. Anyway, those are my thoughts for today. Ain't no minister could be wrong. No, I'm not wrong. I'm right. If you'll excuse me.